No, you're fine, but I've got 6 o'clock. Well, actually, well, yeah, 6 o'clock on my watch. We'll go ahead and call the June meeting of the Laketown Board of Trustees to order for tonight. We've got a full house. Thank you, everybody. I know it's summer, so that sometimes there are other things for a nice summer evening, although we could use about 15, 20 more degrees out there, in my opinion. First thing on the agenda tonight is review and approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the last regular board meeting? If so, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Yes, support.
Support.
Motion and support. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted for the last board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Financials, Mr. Treasurer.
We looked through those at our workshop. And there were just some questions on payroll withholding and investment contributions, Northwest Mutual, Michigan Township Association, the drains with some of our drain work with High Point Community Bank that was in the Philippine County drain. And then the capital was West Michigan, credit card charges, Evergreen sprinkling with some sprinkling work out at the adult mansion, and we discussed those items. None of them are hugely outstanding, so I would make a motion that we approve and pay the bills.
We have support. We have a motion and support. Further questions or discussion on the finance? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the financial reports and paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll let the treasurer and the clerk and the manager take care of paying the bills. That takes us down to our reports. I don't see chair. Oh, I do see chair story. You're up, Jim.
Just in
Hurry,
time.
hurry.
Hurry.
Long way from the south,
Would you want me to circle back? You want,
if you don't mind.
not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Madam Supervisor.
Planning Commissioner, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, indeed. We had a planning commission meeting last Wednesday. We had a couple pieces of business. We had two special use requests, both for AADUs, attached accessory dwelling units. First one was for Mr. Grumney, and that one was approved. And the second one for Mr. Gogolin, that one was tabled. His solution for walling off part of the rentable space was not found adequate by the planning commission, so we've asked him to go back.
Location for both properties?
Both in Laketown Township.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. One is right off 64th Street between 147th and 146th.
It was 138th.
The other one was 138th.
Okay.
And Mr. Gogolin, I think is how it's pronounced, was tabled, and he's going to come back with some other solution satisfactory to the planning commission. And then we discussed a number of potential changes in the ordinances for section 38-5. And did that with Michelle. Had a good conversation around that. And I think that sums up planning.
38.5 is the ADU section. Okay. Questions for Planning Commission?
And I'm sorry, it was not just that section. It was section 38-5, 38-474, which deals with double frontage lots. There was some ambiguity in some of these ordinances that have come up as certain situations have come up. So we want to clarify and make them a little easier for our residents to understand what they need to do, that sort of thing. Another one was home occupations, section 38,488. And then short-term rentals, section 38,494. Just a few little changes to clarify. And those, Al, will go to the board.
Right.
After a
Planning
public
Commission
hearing.
will hold the public hearing and make a recommendation to the board, and then would come back to the board for final approval.
Questions for planning commission? Okay, ZBA, Mr. Delaney.
Zoning Board of Appeals did not meet.
Right. That takes us to parks. I know Jeremy's here. You want to give us a parks report?
Yeah. First, said the name, Jeremy Van Hoven, newly minted chair for the parks. Basically, our last meeting, what we pretty much did is get all the officers set. So I'd set as chair. Kieran is going back again as our vice chair, and we do have Dick, who is going to be our treasurer. Basically discussed a little bit more about our signs that we've been in the process of. This is more of our informational type signs that we're putting at each park. All the ones that basically talk a little bit more about the parks as far as the plant life, stuff like that, aquatic life, if there's ponds, and animal habitats and such. Those informational signs have been all pretty much approved and set. We are in the process of getting the last of the basically welcoming signs when you first come into the park. That's going to have the information about the park. We're going to have a brief history about the park, a little bit of rules, everything else. That's going to be kind of the first sign that people are going to see, outside of the beautiful monument signs that are at each park. Of course, we are in the process of working on the 5-year plan. It is at time, so it's a arduous task, and very happy, thankful we got Michelle on staff to be basically get us through. She's had experience, of course, through parks before doing as such. So we kicked off initially with the postcards that I'm sure probably everybody got that basically tell about the meet and greet that we were going to have. 2 of those have taken place so far. Karen had the first one this past Thursday and had a good outcome with that. And I did this one past Saturday and had 3 people, and that was a wonderful outcome as well. So kind of roll along good, and yeah, gonna be a fun adventure as we roll through for the next few stages here. So
For parks tonight.
Hey, Jeremy, how many people have you had show up for these so far? Do you know the approximate amount of people
that we've had so
Yeah,
far
yeah, so
with
far,
the meet
yeah.
and greet.
Yeah.
I had 3, and I believe Kieran had 3 as well.
Yeah.
You had 6, okay, then I misheard. That's good. That's a really, really good, and we're gonna have 2 more, of course, come July. So kind of nice to get a little bit of outreach, and glad that people are coming in and discussing the parks and giving us some really good input. So real happy about that, and kind of excited to hear the outcome for our newly, hopefully soon added members.
Quick question, and I don't want to step on the chief's toes, but we've got the pancake breakfast coming up at the fire station. And I know Parks was at the pancake breakfast last year for a different reason.
Yes.
We're going to have any information about the 5-year plan at the pancake breakfast this year?
That's one thing that we're going to actually discuss this up and coming meeting,
Okay.
because actually Karen once again brought up a really excellent idea, because it'd be nice, because Ann Brand actually has been working pretty diligently about kind of updating the questionnaire and kind of getting it more of a format that'll be easier to really tabulate the results. So we're hoping we can get that kind of set before then, and hopefully discussion will lead to see if we can get enough volunteers to go to that. And yeah, that'd be wonderful, because that is busy as ever.
Chief knows how to make pancakes.
Yeah, and it's good too.
He's actually,
He shakes his head, come on.
Even better. Anything else for parks tonight? Thanks very much.
All right, you bet, thank you.
That takes us to the chief.
For the month of May, we had a total of 77 calls, 7 fire calls, 19 medical rescue calls in Fillmore, 16 fire calls, 26 medical rescue calls in Laketown. We had 8 fire call assist, 3 to Holland, 1 to Ganges, 4 to Saugatuck, and 1 medical call assist to Saugatuck as well.
And as you told me right before the meeting, you guys have been hopping in the last few days with actual structure fires too.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. We had 2 fires in the last 4 weeks, and those are the first 2 structure fires we had in 3 years.
Were they homes or barns or?
One was a garage, and the one on Monday night was a home,
Thankfully, nobody hurt.
right, except 1 animal. No, 1 animal and 2 chicks, baby chicks.
Fixed, like heaters or lights caused the fire? Not shocking. It's just that time of year, everybody's
But
getting their
it's-
chicks.
It's kind of strange because the one that we had in 2020 was the exact same thing.
Questions for the chief tonight? Okay, so when do pancakes get served?
6:30,
6:30 to 11?
10.
6:30 to 10.
On the 4th. Tuesday.
On the 4th.
And if anybody has missed it, it's a fantastic thing. So I encourage people to go. And I thank your team for putting it on. It's gotta be a boatload of work.
It is a lot of work. The day of.
Pancakes, 6:30 is a little late for Gary, but I'm sure
Yeah.
he can hold off.
You'll already have 1 or 2 breakfasts
Yeah.
before then.
Or 3. The rest of us will be there about 9.
That sounds good.
Thank you, chief.
All right, thank you.
Back to Chair Story.
Thank you for your.
Brought presents for us?
Yeah, well, I got an email today from Amy Skolton saying we're running out of information material, particularly these little babies called something for everyone inside Allegan County each and every season. It's a little Z map that folds out and folds back in. But there are also some other pamphlets and information on various things, and it's okay. I'll entrust them to you, Al.
There you
to-
Thank you.
To replace supplies.
Those little maps are really, really, really nice.
Yeah.
They hold up so small and yeah,
Yeah, I noticed our supplies are running a little low. I'm gonna have to talk to our parks and recreation director about replenishing them, because I think they have been, took a while for them to take on popularity. But I think it's picked up over the last few years. But you're right, Gary, they're very convenient to have around. Even the sheriff's department likes them for some reason. They have about everything they can have to get them in a direction. Okay, couple of things I wanted to report on. Supervisor, members of the board of trustees and residents. We had a 50-person turnout for our solar field and agriculture presentation a week ago Monday. It was by MSU educator Ryan Coffey Hoag. He's from Newaygo County. He has made a diligent study of the impact of solar fields being targeted for our agricultural fields. And he told us in his report that one utility, and he wouldn't name it, but I think he might be able to guess, is looking to get in the next couple of years, 200,000 acres in the lower half of the mitten under with being converted to solar fields. And but he said this is an area where jurisdiction in terms of people wishing to kind of address any regulation of the solar fields falls to townships. County does not have authority there. He did have a model ordinance that was developed by MSU Extension and the University of Michigan in a collaborative effort. But he encouraged any township interested in pursuing that to, of course, adapt to the local situation and their conditions. He made a couple of points that I think is worth noting, and that is probably cannot prohibit solar fields. If someone wants to convert their farm acreage to a solar field, I don't think that there is a provision legally, but I'll leave it to the supervisor to maybe opine on that to prohibit it, but you can regulate them. And he said a couple of things that have worked with the townships that he's worked closely with in his own county is to regulate the size that you're going to permit in the township and the location. Encouraged any township that wanted to pursue that to really work with the farmers very closely in terms of location, obviously aiming it towards the least productive land for agriculture in a particular township, and that you can set up, buffer zones and green zones, if you will, around them to, kind of protect sightliness if that's a concern. But we had 8 townships represented among the 50 people attended, lots of agribusiness people that were there, and then just interested citizens. So it was lasted for about 2 hours. It was, I thought, very informative. We also, last week at the Board of Commissioners meeting, we approved a contract with Williams and Works, which is a water construction engineering contracting firm, to work with our water study group to kind of collect some various studies on the adequacy of our aquifer and its condition vis-a-vis contaminants, so that when they are done collecting that data and probably drilling a few of their own examination wells, that we can convene a kind of a work session with local governments to decide, is there a need for further action by a consortium of governments? There'll actually be 2 work sessions, one to decide, here's the data, is there more work that we need to do? And the second work session would be if there's a decision to go forward. So we expect that will be kind of a 1 to 2 year project going forward, but we have had some concerns, particularly even before this year, when we had, of course, the dry conditions that we've experienced over in Overijssel area, particularly of the adequacy of the aquifer there, and drying out or hitting saline formations. Also, last Thursday, we presented a retirement gift and certificate to Judge Kangas. He retired at our Chief Circuit Court Judge retires on June 30th this year. He has had 30 years of service to Allegan County, first as an assistant prosecutor, then as prosecutor, and last few years as our chief judge. We await the governor's decision on an appointment. And on an ongoing issue that, of course, is more locally concerned, of our air monitoring station on in the northwest corner of the county here in Laketown Township. The EPA, I guess, is going to publish a record of decision in the Federal Register sometime this month, according to the Michigan Department of Transportation. I think the Department of Transportation has been pretty vocal in expressing concern about the scientific basis of the findings about our air quality here in Allegan County. And we'll continue to work with Congressman Heisinger on, I think, an uphill battle to get them to move it, or at least add another station more central or another part of the county, just to balance the data from which they're making decisions. Because in the last week of May there, we had 2 Arizona Action Days, which, kind of modifies what people can do. And it's, in my view, based upon questionable data. So with that, that's kind of the update of reports, and I'll be glad to, something I missed, I'd be glad to field any questions.
Jim, I know you had a question?
I was just curious on the solar meeting. How would you describe like the overall tone of the meeting? Were more people supportive, or they were against it, or was it a kind of an equal mix? Or
I didn't hear any support for more solar fields. We have one large solar field in Allegan County right now. in Lee Township, 240 acres. And it's kind of, even before we met, Ryan Hoag kind of follows his recommendations. It's on, was built on land that hadn't been in production for 10, 12 years because of its poor quality for producing crops. It's in a remote area away from any high traffic areas in the township. Key thing, I think, when solar fields are located is they want to be close to, electric lines, transmission lines. Obviously they're selling electricity. So I would say, but I think at last night's meeting, we heard some concern in Fillmore of our large farmers about, he's tired of getting a lot of letters of people asking him to sell his land. It's interesting, this morning I had an appointment over in Zealand, and a car pulled up next to me, and it was a solar field developer. I don't think they were following me or anything like that. Pure happenstance.
They're black Cadillac.
They're getting.
Sorry, the bump right
May have been the tinted windows, Al. So, no, I think there's genuine concern. I mean, and it's a tough question, particularly those who have family farms, and people who are maybe my age that may want to slow down and sell their farms. And if there's a nice cash deal on the table, big cash deals that I've been hearing, it might be hard, but we also have to look to the future.
Other questions for Chair Story?
I have a question about the aquifer studies.
Yeah. Mhm.
What and where will they be studying?
Well, they're first going to assess, there's been about 3 or 4 studies already of the adequacy of the aquifer and contamination in different parts. Aquifer adequacy is really on the northern kind of area of the county. The contamination part is really in the southern part by Otsego and Plainwell area. So there's kind of 2 different areas of investigation. So, and then they're going to, put the studies together to kind of come up with a conclusion, recommendation, discussion.
So it's not, is it gonna be throughout the whole county or not necessarily?
Oh, yeah, it'll be
Oh, it
for the
will.
whole
It
county,
will.
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you coming in.
I'm sorry that I rushed in at the last minute, but
No worries.
I was in the southeast corner of the county, so southeast to northwest is.
We appreciate the effort because you show up every month and I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm pleased to be there. May I be excused though? I'd like
Yes,
to.
go enjoy your summer evening.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
That takes us down to citizen comments on old and new business items. We don't have any old business tonight. We have new business of the Parks Commission appointment and the Semco franchise. Any comments on those 2 items tonight? All right, we'll move on to business then. There's no old business. First thing up is the Parks Commission appointment. I'm not sure which of our 2 board members want to take it.
I'll speak to it. So maybe I'll start with a little bit of the process, how we got to where we're at. I'll say that we do, the special interviewing committee does have a recommendation tonight for the board of an individual. So the process started with, it was advertised, there was an opportunity opening on the Parks Commission. I think we had 8 initial applicants, which is terrific because we've had times, I think, when we had 0. And 1 had to pull out based on some other family commitments. So 7 were in the running. 3 of us were chosen to be the ones to interview and make the recommendation. So the 3 of us had all 7, call it resumes, letters of interest. We all reviewed all 7 independently. And then each of us, Karen Simmons, Gary Dewey, and I, voted independently on the 7, and we landed on 3 to interview. And we interviewed those 3 individuals this afternoon here. All good candidates. We probably wouldn't make a mistake in appointing any one of the 3, but 1 rose to the top after spending a half hour with each, and the 3 of us having some good dialogue afterwards. And the candidate that we've landed on is Brad Laniga, a longtime township resident. I think all three of them are longtime township residents, actually. And I'm happy to report the other two candidates are very willing and interested in playing some role in the township, maybe in a different position at some point. And one gentleman, Patrick Dietrich, is a former Coast Guard officer and very skilled in planning, very analytical. And the three of us identified him as a great future candidate, maybe for a planning commission or some role within the township, which would allow him to use his planning skills and actually likes it. He likes getting into the weeds with the analytical stuff. So, did I cover it, Gary? Did I miss anything?
Very well.
So that am I hearing that you're making a recommendation to the board for Brad Lanninga?
Recommending Brad Laniga as the appointed replacement Parks Commissioner.
Would you like to make that a motion?
I will make a motion. Is that appropriate?
And then I will support as a board member.
Have a motion and support on Brad Lanninga. Now, I was not involved in the interviews and neither were Jim Delaney or Amber. So I'll start down at that end if you guys have questions. Want to ask the interview panel?
No, I don't have anything.
The only thing I'll add is I appreciate the three of you taking the time to go through it. I'll echo Jim that I'm very happy we got such a great response.
Then with the other four candidates, we should keep their names in the docket someplace where we can come back to them and say, hey, we have this opening.
Absolutely.
Love to get them involved.
Anything else on this appointment? And it carries through till the November 2024 election. Al, you want a roll call on this?
Don't need it, but I can do it if you want.
But if-
Sure, Johnson,
Aye.
Dewey,
Aye.
Howell,
Aye.
Davis,
I,
Delaney.
Aye.
I will send an email to all the other candidates,
Thank you.
notify them of the choice.
Fully Staff Parks Commission. That takes us down to the Semco franchise, Al.
So you have in front of you ordinance number 207, our franchise ordinance with Semco to supply natural gas in the township. This is a 30-year franchise. Last time we did it was 30 years ago, 1993. We took the ordinance recommended by Semco, had our attorney review it. He made significant changes to it. He went back an ordinance which was approved by Semco area of the state, actually up in Ottawa County. And with Semco to review and they're good with it. So both Ron and I are recommending you approve it.
So that we can get it on the table for discussion. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have support? Have a motion and support? Discussion. We had this at workshop. It's not long at all. It's 3 1/4 pages. But Jim, I know you had some concerns.
No,
Alright.
I looked it over and I don't have any more concerns.
Okay. Any other questions on Semco? Seeing none, this is as an ordinance. Al, do you want a roll call?
Sure. Johnson,
Aye.
Dewey,
Aye.
Howell.
Aye.
Davis,
I,
Delaney.
That's it for new business unless there's anything else.
For new business?
Yes.
Yes.
An actual business item or just something we want to discuss after citizen comment?
It's an actual business item, I guess. We've discussed it in the workshop. So is that discussable? we talked about the Heiser House in the last meeting. And I said that I would vote against using any township money regarding the Heiser House because we have not a stated purpose for the Heiser House. So I would like to make a motion that we as a board do not provide any money towards the Heiser House because of the fact that we do not have a stated purpose for that house.
Okay,
So I would like to make a motion that we do not allow any more money to go to towards the renovation of the Heiser House.
I'm not sure we can do that in that format under the Budget Act, because what you're actually trying to do is amend. Remember? Because the money was approved by the board as part of the budget process.
But it wasn't for the Heiser House, though.
It was for building and grounds. I guess first question is, do we have a second on the motion, or does it die for lack of a second?
I'll second it for the purposes of discussion. We need to do that, correct?
You were gonna say something
You know,
about
I think the board can amend the budget without any public hearing. You certainly have that ability. Wouldn't really truly be a budget amendment. You're just saying that you don't want anything spent towards the Heiser House. So that,
So it doesn't change the budget.
I don't think it would necessarily would. But yeah, I mean, but. Well, I'm not gonna say any more on the topic. I'll just stay out. I'll sit back and watch.
Comment.
Oh. I'm still anxious to see the report from the building authority on, what are we gonna do with it? So I don't love the idea of spending a bunch of money on it before we know that. Feels like cart before the horse. So I don't know how the other board members feel in regard to that, but
Is there, you have not scheduled in the next building authority?
No, not yet. I'm gathering information at this point.
When is the work set to, do we have a set date?
Well, the guys out there are working on the landscaping right now. Escape's out there clearing brush and clearing up all
So
the
the
house right now.
landscape has started?
Yeah.
Okay.
That being
It's out
said,
there for 2 days.
sorry. That being said, how does the Conservancy get involved with all of this?
Doesn't. Eventually, if we come up with a use that is questionable under our conservation easement, then there would need to be some conservancy discussions. But it's very clear in the easements, the things we cannot do with the property. We can't have golf courses, we can't have roller rinks and those kinds of big active things. We cannot split the property. We cannot, we're only allowed one residence on the property. But generally speaking, the 40 acres that is the farm part of the property is pretty much hands off with the Conservancy. They're much more concerned about the south 40 and the west 20 acres, more the natural areas of the property. That's where they're really tight on those uses about no motorized vehicles, trails only, that kinds of things, no earth moving, but the 40, they're saying, basically no intensive uses, and I can send you a copy of the Conservancy easement if you like. But there not a lot of involvement in that part.
I've read it too, so.
The reason I also think that the conservancy would be involved because you're dealing with what, soil, paint, removing paint and paint getting into the soil and that sort of thing. So they would be involved.
You think it happen if you demolish the house?
What's that?
You were to demolish the house,
For that as well.
that would certainly happen.
It would be involved in all of that.
Yeah.
I guess one other comment is, I've seen on the house, it has wood siding, that there are places where the wood is completely rotted through. So a scrape and paint operation would probably not work. It'd probably need to be more than that. Of that, and I hate to waste money. I get it that we want to try to stabilize it. But I also don't want to waste money. If it turns out that it's decided after the building authority does their due diligence that there really isn't a good purpose for it, a reason to keep it, then that's money that we've used that we didn't need to. So I'm torn with that, to be honest with you.
Building inspector's report on the structure. So there is some siding repair, 10%, I believe you said. Needs to be taken care of around the window sills and some other lower spots. Yeah, there is some siding that needs to be repaired.
Do we have a date set for when the painting is going to begin?
No. Not yet. Right now, we're working on groundwork and cleanup.
So we could compromise and continue working on groundwork, which would most likely need to be done anyhow.
You really want to micromanage the building authority?
Well, no,
Go ahead. I'm serious, that's what we're talking about, guys.
I understand.
We're talking about.
no, I was just saying we could continue with the groundwork if we don't have anything set up to start the painting. We don't know when the next meeting is and the painting's not scheduled. So,
The building authority was given 6 months to come up with the full report and a proposal for us to consider. And it's been what, 2 months out? No more than 3.
It's 6 months is up in October. I'm not sure of the date.
Yeah, but we do not have a stated purpose for the Heiser House. We don't have it. And for us to be putting money into the Heiser House, and it may get torn down anyway. And we're putting money into it. That's taxpayer money. I don't think the taxpayers are overjoyed about having their money spent and it not being utilized, that house not being utilized, or even money towards that house, because it needs to be, in my estimation, removed. So.
What I heard from taxpayers was that they didn't like the look of the house, that it was ugly, that it would looked abandoned and misused, and that it was susceptible for break-ins, it was not secure. That's what I heard from the residents primarily, and that's what we are trying to respond to.
My 2 cents is, I know the comments I received had to do with appearance. I don't think that taking care of the landscaping is a step too far by any stretch. I don't think that, making it, as people drive past, look better by maintaining the landscaping is a step too far by any stretch. I would be interested in, and I know we have one of the issues with the building authority meeting is that it's only 3 members. So if 2 people get together, it's a quorum issue. And so Al's been doing all of the footwork so that when they do get together, they've got all of the information that they can then discuss and deliberate and decide what the next steps are. So the fact that there haven't been a series of meetings, it's just because there's footwork to be done so that when a report does come to us, it's comprehensive and provides us good information to work with.
No, actually, I have to go back and look at the minutes, but I was thinking that the report should be going to the Parks Commission.
Eventually, we'll have to be involved from a budget perspective, depending on what the report.
If I start spending significant money and, yeah. Right, they could work into next year's budget. yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So whether the report comes to us or comes to Parks or winds up with both, and, it'll be a comprehensive, considered piece of study. And I appreciate that. I mean, I can speak from the fact that when I was on Parks back I started on Parks in 2006. And it's been a challenge. It has. But that being said, it's right now, it is to an extent a township asset. And all of us sitting here and, every park commissioner from at least my tenure forward can take a chunk of it saying, we should have done something, before as far as maintaining it. But we did. We had the Debts crew out there and painted it once, at least once. And we've had Dave Caring out there several times and things like that. Minimal upkeep, but some effort nonetheless. So I'm not in favor of a dead stop on this at all, because I don't want to hear a whole nother bunch of complaints about the landscaping not being maintained and the general appearance. Al, what is the estimate on the painting? Do we know?
Paint will be extremely minimal. My guess is under $1,000. But there are other parts of the puzzle too, securing the structure, bringing Wi-Fi into the building, Now, part of that is part of a bigger picture to bring Wi-Fi to all of our parks. And actually, I've been working on that also, because we have 4 locations I've been working on getting the Wi-Fi to. One is Heiser Farm. Second is Gibson Cemetery. Third is Farview Park. And fourth, I'm looking at putting one into Walter's house that we own to make sure we can monitor that carefully. So I'm working with Comcast. Actually, I just met with them this week via Zoom and working out details on that. So that's one of the pieces that we talked about. That's not going to be a direct. It's going to affect the house, but it's not, the house alone. It's for the park itself. That's primarily what I think we had talked about was cleaning it up, painting it, securing it, making it so we can monitor it.
So basically,
Stabilization.
aside from the Wi-Fi, which is a bigger project, because that's all the parks.
Right.
And, whether it's a Ring doorbell or what for security, once the Wi-Fi goes in, but that's again, separate and apart and down the calendar ways. We're looking at landscaping and 1,000 or 2 for paint. So I just need a context. That's what I'm looking at.
And the shoe on the other foot, I appreciate you've heard, from people what you've heard as far as the aesthetics, but I've heard from a lot of people that they want it removed because of the time period that has, the lapsed time period, and nothing has been done. Again, like I said, there is no stated purpose for that house. The very fact that, we're spending money now, we're talking about putting internet, putting poles out there and all that sort of thing. If we do that, we have all that stuff and all that money has been spent. And, it's going to be more than just a little bit to do all of that. That's where, that's where the thought has come. It needs to be taken down. So.
I've had many people talk to me about saving the house. I've had
Oh,
three Laketown residents come in back and say they're willing to volunteer their time and effort to help on that. So
But you haven't done that because you had to
I
go
haven't done it
to,
because I haven't had the chance to have the ability to until we had the building authority take control of the house.
but it's been there for how many years?
I've been talking about this for about 20 years, Jim. It's nothing new here.
No, it's
So
not.
the question becomes a very limited investment in aesthetics. The board.
What does she need?
Can you mute that person, please? So a limited amount of money for aesthetics. And allowing the building authority to complete its work. At which time, because realistically, the building authority is gonna be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Al, should be done with the study by the time we deal with Wi-Fi for the parks.
June, it's gonna be right about the same time period. Yeah. I
So-
really don't know. It's Comcast time, you know.
Right. So the question is, some paint and some landscaping, or let it sit there the way it is? And when I hear.
Move it.
When I hear the numbers that Al just referenced to me, it does impact my thought process on this.
Call for the question.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Question
Can I,
is, to stop any spending on the Heiser House.
Right. Board did not
Unless
spend
there's
any
a
money.
motion to
That
amend,
that was the motion, I believe.
unless there's a move to amend the motion.
Well, I just one more comment, yes, before we roll call it is, I can support it if it's minimal investment. What you're saying, Linda, very minimal, just to do what we need to do to satisfy the residents that are complaining about the appearance of it. But not a big project, big dollar project to do all kinds of exterior improvements until we have maybe someday we'll say yes to that. I don't know, but we got to see the purpose of the house and then we can. Yes, but I don't have a dollar amount that I can put on it. I don't think.
Withdraw your second. Withdraw your
Since
support.
we don't have a dollar amount. We don't know. This could be astronomical. We don't know. We don't have a dollar amount.
We're not talking about the full project. He's
I-
talking about a minimal project for the aesthetics. So
You open
Yeah,
up a
folks,
can of
The
worms.
bigger picture is, do you want to micromanage another board that you appointed?
It's not about micromanaging.
That's what it is. Exactly what it is, Jim.
It is-
I personally want to give the building authority the chance to do the job.
I agree with Linda.
The question is, we have a motion on the table. Did you want to make an amendment or you want to just go with the motion that's on the table?
I'll go with the motion that's on the table.
Gary called the question.
Okay. Johnson,
No,
What is the,
the motion is, Mr. Hayden, do you have it on? You could read it.
Not provide any money toward the Heiser House because it did not have a stated purpose for the Heiser House.
Motion, so stop providing money for the Heiser House.
so we're voting on stopping spending?
Yes. First time. Johnson,
no,
Dewey,
No,
Howell, Davis, Delaney,
Yes.
motion fails.
That takes us. Else that takes us down to citizen comments on anything.
I'd like to know who you're gonna get to paint your house for $2,000, because I'd like to employ them to paint mine.
Good evening.
I have lots of questions, but I know this isn't question time, this is comment time. So I guess my biggest question is on communication. I have lots of questions, but I send emails and nobody responds to my emails except for a couple people.
I
don't know
get
why
any-
this is happening.
I don't get any of your emails. Other
Well,
than
I
that-
sent yours to your personal email last
Yeah,
time, so
what-
I know
yeah.
you got it.
Guys,
But I,
Come
yeah,
on, it's,
Okay, sorry.
anyway, emails are sent, stuff gets sent to the lawyer because I send a simple one paragraph email and I never get a response. I never get my questions answered. I don't know how this is supposed to work, if we're supposed to just sit here and take everything, or if we can actually get some answers. That's my rhetorical question, I guess. And then I don't want to forget about the Walters house. We don't know what's going on with the Walters house, what's happening there. We don't get an update on that. Yeah, the Heiser house, there's no building authority update. I don't know who does the cemetery update. So I don't know how to get questions answered, and other people have the same issue I have. So I have not sent any emails to any groups. It's always been to a single board member, so there's no problem with it being illegal or open meetings problems. I just need to know how we're supposed to ask questions and get answers. And my only other comment is Gary's link is still broken. So it's been months.
I'll try it again.
I tried it today, didn't work.
Try it again. It should be working. I'll talk to the web people. Thank you.
anybody else in the room?
Comment about the Heiser house. I personally think that it's a money pit. I can't see just a small amount of money going into that house to just clean it up, to make it look pretty from the outside. I think you should have a meeting with the town, send out message. Do you want to come and have some comments regarding this particular item? I think there are a lot of people who would show up and give you some of their comments. Like I said, I think the house is too old. It hasn't been cared for. I know from doing work on my own houses that once you start something, there's always something else that happens. And it might be worth it just to get rid of the house. I don't have a personal preference. I just know that once you open that can of worms, it comes to something other than what you expect. Thank you.
Room? Jim? All right. Before we adjourn, I did want to say one thing, especially the question and answer corner of the board of the website actually went live this afternoon. So I'm going to start with the questions you asked tonight. So they'll get posted as soon as we get it drafted, and Jim will get it posted. So it's on the front page of the new website. No?
It's on the township board page.
Oh, excuse me, township board page of the new
Township board
website.
page of the website. It's got your pretty pictures. And then above that, it says meet the board. And then below that, it says ask the board a question.
So I wrote down your questions and I'm going to start with those. I appreciate Jim Hayden and Al and our crew, Michelle, on all the work they've done on that website to give us that opportunity to, for a way to answer these questions. With that, there's something you wanted to tell us, Mr. Dewey.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. Do we have a support?
Support.
Thank you all. See you. I'll be there between 8 and 9 for pancakes, but
Save me a pancake.
we'll see you for pancakes. Happy 4th of July, everybody.